Welcome to E360 TV, the live streaming and on-demand destination for influential voices and enlightened audiences. We offer trending, grassroots, and purpose-driven content across a diverse range of interests. E360 TV is more than just watching programs. We offer the ability to interact with live shows connecting audiences to real, authentic influencers and storytellers while streaming to millions of devices. Real experiences. Raw conversation. One destination for it all. E360 TV.
Welcome to today's program on the future of work and the future of leadership. My name's Stephen Howard, an award-winning author and creator of the Humony Leadership concept of people-centric leadership mindsets, skills, and behaviors. Today's program, my guests and I are going to discuss 4 critical themes impacting organizational leadership. And these include how the future of work continues to change in scope and breadth, how leadership is changing and why, how IT is changing the future of work and leadership, and most interestingly, can we bring harmony and humanity into the workplace? And if so, would we? Why should we? We have a very international panel of guests for you today with work and life experiences in Europe, Russia, Asia, Australia, the United States, and across Latin America. I'll introduce them later. But to whet your appetite, our panel consists of Ileana Ferber, born in Venezuela and now living in Houston, Adriana Fuentes Diaz from Mexico City, who also lived and worked in Venezuela, Carlo Bueso from Mexico, Rodrigo Martinelli, born in Brazil, worked across Latin America and is now living outside Dallas, and Elisa Landa from the United Kingdom, England, and Mac Bogert from Ireland in the United States. And as for me, while I was born, raised, and educated in the United States, I've spent most of my life working and living in Asia, Australia, and Mexico. So, as I said, quite an international grouping. So to kick us off, there's a lot happening in the world of IT, from artificial intelligence to cloud computing to ChatGPT to cybersecurity. And sometimes I wonder, with all the managerial and leadership focus on IT innovation and implementation, have we misplaced our leadership skills? And should workers, including leaders and managers and individual contributors, should they be concerned about how these IT innovations and changes will impact their jobs and careers? Well, I put these questions to my first guest, Rodrigo Martinelli from Rackspace Technology, Now, Rodrigo is on vacation this week with his family, so I interviewed him 2 weeks ago, and I'm going to share some video clips with you in just a moment. But Rodrigo is Vice President of Americas and the Managing Director for Latin America for Rackspace Technology. He's also the author of a top-selling book on managing one's own career path called 7 Steps of Your Career Ladder: How to Create Your Own Successful Career Like a Champion. Now, Rodrigo is an accomplished global business executive whose nearly 20-year career working in Fortune 500 companies has seen him grow billion-dollar businesses. So I started our conversation by asking Rodrigo to share his thoughts on how leadership has changed in Latin America over the years and the future changes he sees coming. Let's hear his thoughts.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Stephen, for having me, and what a great compliment. Thank you. The globalization that we lived in the last 15 years did not help only to move products and goods across the globe, but also helped us to bring knowledge to the region. Many Latin American leaders are going to Europe, to the United States, even to Asia, to learn and bring these best practices to Latin America. But I have to say, the diversity that we live here is unique. And this diversity, with the knowledge that we are acquiring all over the globe, not only make us great leaders for Latin America, but brings us to another level. Latin Americans can be really good global leaders. And that's kind of what is super exciting about our region and what we are doing, exporting talent everywhere to the globe.
That was great, Rodrigo. You know, interestingly, I had not thought about the fact that Latin American leaders are now going global, worldwide. So it's a great sign. We're seeing great economic growth in Latin America, and it's a great sign to see so many, high potential and strong leaders from Latin America going overseas and being leaders in other parts of the world. Let's return to my interview with Rodrigo. I asked him how he sees adaptability and agility as drivers of sustained success. So here's his thoughts.
Critical. If you don't understand and don't have the mindset that you must adapt, because every day is a constant change. If you don't have the mindset to understand that adapting is a must, you're gonna be in trouble. Moreover, the market is so accelerated. The internet, the cloud, and now the artificial intelligence are accelerating everything. And if you're not agile enough, you know what happens? You're gonna be put in the back. The market is competitive. The competition is key right now, and early and fast and understanding exactly how you can leverage all these technologies to accelerate your business is key. So don't forget, adaptability and agility must be the top of mind of every single of executives, leaders, and why not professionals.
Great thought, Rodrigo. And, in my book, I mentioned the fact that agile employees and agile leaders create agile companies. And that's what we're going to need to be successful coming out of the pandemic here. I also asked Rodrigo to share his thoughts on the role of cloud. What's the role of cloud computing in the future work? And here's what he had to say.
When the pandemic hit, everybody had to do the digital transformation. But something new happened as well. We had to adapt to the hybrid workplace, to solutions to have people everywhere. And if the cloud was not there, solutions like Zoom or others that now we have wouldn't be possible. Cloud gave us access to technologies that in the past would worth millions of dollars. And now you can buy this using your credit card. So the cloud not only accelerated the future of work when the pandemic hit, but will continue to accelerate the future of work and everything around that. Cloud is key, and now with artificial intelligence, is going to be even more important. The big data, The volume of data that we are creating, consuming, and analyzing is at sky record right now. And that's something that we need to think about when we talk about what the technology is enabling, not only the future of work, but everything in our lives.
Interesting. Until I talked to Rodrigo, I hadn't really thought personally about the linkage between cloud computing and hybrid working and work from everywhere. So I can see why he's very passionate about the subject. I also asked Rodrigo whether employees should worry. Should people worry that AI, artificial intelligence, will create more discord, maybe more drama in the workplace? And his answer was very enlightening.
That's a great question, Stephen. And I have to say, no, not at all. ChatGPT and all these AI tools will help us gain efficiency, will help us create consistency, will even help us write better emails or better posts. But at the end of the day, all that the AI is doing is using facts, history, data, and that is important, but it's not what we have in personal relationships. The fact that AI will not know what's going on when you meet a client for lunch, when you go to the office and have like a side conversations and learn about strategies and things that they're doing, the feeling, the sentiment, the intangible knowledge is not there. It is in the interpersonal relationships. So we shouldn't be worried about AI. In fact, we should learn how we can enable and utilize and be a master of that. Even if you're not a technology professional, you should understand that.
You can see why Rodrigo is such a successful sales leader, because he understands the importance of those personal connections and personal networks to be successful going forward. But people are worried about AI and their impact on their jobs and their future. So I asked Rodrigo to share some thoughts on how worried for their jobs should today's employees be about new technologies like ChatGPT and AI. And here's what he had to say.
Like I said, technologies like ChatGPT will help us do some stuff better. Like I became a master on Scratch. I don't know if you guys know this. This is a MIT code platform that you can build whatever you want, and that is used by kids. I used to code, but I'm far away from that. But because of ChatGPT, I became a master. So I'm building new games with my kids, and they are like, oh my God, Dad, how do you know this? Well, I don't, but I know how to ask ChatGPT to do that to me. And that's just an example. So I don't think people should be concerned about what ChatGPT can do to them. Instead, they should be concerned about how to learn how to use these tools, how to build images with AI, how to build better emails, better communication using ChatGPT, how doing better research using these tools. That's the key. Sit down on the sidewalk and be concerned about that will not help you. What will help you really is for you to learn how you can take full advantage of AI and all these marvelous technologies that are nowadays showing up almost on a daily basis.
Thanks, Rodrigo. As an author of 22 books, I've been having lots of discussions with people about using ChatGPT to write books, and I'm scared of that. I'm afraid it's going to put me out of business, but he's made me a little bit more happy, pacified that I can continue my writing career. So lastly, as I'm speaking of writers, I mentioned, Rodrigo is the author of a best-selling book called 7 Steps of Your Career Ladder. And I asked him, with all the changes in the world of work and how the future of work is changing, what advice does he have for people contemplating making a career change today? And his reply is great advice for everyone at any stage of their career. Let's listen.
Well, first, buy my book. But without a joke, build a career plan. You will not be able to make a move, you will not be able to understand what's required for the next job if you don't have a career plan. If you don't understand where you want to be, if you don't understand the path, and more importantly, understand what skills you need to acquire, learn to go and earn your next job, earn the next step in your career ladder. That's how we do it. So only 0.1% of the professionals. When I was building the career ladder program and translating into the book, I learned that 99% of the people don't have a career plan. In fact, 99.9%. So you can be 0.1% of the professionals that will have a career plan, and that's going to differentiate you massively against the competition. So don't stop everything that you're doing right now and start to build your career plan.
Great advice from Rodrigo. I once heard the head of HR at a major technology once tells a group of executives, don't let anyone else control your career. You need to control it yourself. Same thing with your personal and your professional development. You need to control that. Rodrigo's kicked us off in a great way. We're going to take a short break now for a couple of commercials. And when we come back, we're going to start a very rich dialogue with our guest panelists. See you in a couple minutes.
Shoulder
Welcome back. So why this topic, the future work and the future of leadership? Well, the business environment was changing before COVID, but now, quite frankly, these changes are happening at warp speed. We're in the throes of a pivotal moment, probably facing the greatest transformation in how we work since the early days of word processing and the desktop computer, which kicked off the information revolution. Additionally, quite simply stated, work and the workplace are not working for many people. Work in the workplace, along with the behaviors, mindsets, actions, attitudes of many leaders, have alienated millions of people around the globe. And since the pandemic, people have been reevaluating their purposes and priorities in life and the role that work plays in these and in their life. Now, this is a global phenomenon. Research from McKinsey last year revealed that nearly 1/3 of workers in Europe were expected to change jobs in the first half of this year. So it continues. Now, these are drastic changes, and we're at the forefront of my mind when I published Humany Leadership, Mindsets, Skills, and Behaviors for Being a Successful People-Centric Leader last year. How do we as leaders emerge from the pandemic? Can we go back to the old ways of managing and leading? I don't believe so. I don't believe we can. There's no old reality to return to. People have changed. The world has changed. Hence, leaders must change as well. Now, sustainable success requires people-centric leadership and enhanced workplace environments. So I created the word humany, Humony, by combining human, humanity, and harmony to emphasize the leading of people and the need for leaders to create workplaces of wellness and harmony. Now, this is about people before profits, not about people over profits. People over profits is an either-or proposition. People before profits means people plus profits to create sustainable results. So this is going to be the backdrop for our conversation today. And to get us started, let me introduce our first two guests. From Houston, Ileana Ferber is the CEO and founder of Colibri Business Development, where she advises governments on economic growth strategies. And she also trains critical stakeholders to solve economic development challenges in resource-rich countries. Now, before creating Colibri Business Development, Ileana worked for ExxonMobil for 24 years, including managing their human rights and global supply diversity programs. Welcome, Ileana.
Thank you, Stephen.
And let me introduce our second guest, and then we'll get underway. So our second guest is Adriana Fuentes Diaz. She's an award-winning author of the Strong Women Speak series of books, and her diverse career has spanned the world of advertising, broadcasting, public relations, the oil and gas industry, and even the solar energy field. And today, she's recognized keynote speaker on women empowerment and women's economic development. And in 2021, she was recognized for her contributions to women by the National Council of Business Women in Mexico. Welcome, Adriana. And we have Annalisa on the screen. We need to switch to Adriana if we can, Lauren. But we're going to come back to Annalisa in just a moment. So here we go. Let's get Adriana on screen. But I'm going to kick the first question off with Ileana anyway. So Ileana, what are your thoughts on how the future of work is changing and the pace of this change?
Well, I won't say anymore the future of work. I would say the reality of work, because I think everything has changed dramatically since COVID. I think COVID was the trigger of all these changes. The fact that most of us are working from home, that's the big transition. Nobody thought that this was going to be part of our lives. And even when you're applying to new jobs, then I know people are now looking, well, can I work remotely? Can I work from home? In most of the jobs that I've been seeing on LinkedIn, they're all pretty much home-based. And this is really now a reality that we're all facing, not just for the younger generation, but even for people that are including retiring early. I mean, even before 55, I have to say, in my case, I give myself an early retirement because I wanted to do things on my own. So it's a change of perspective, a change of purpose. A lot of people have felt that they don't have a purpose working the same way people have worked. And I think COVID, being at home, being forced to be at home and work and do whatever you can from home was a big difference. Working virtually, Zoom and everything. I mean, we were doing FaceTime with our phones, but no one thought that this was going to be now the our day-to-day, routine. So I think the future of work is really now the reality of work. We are already in that what we probably would call future. We are now in the present of work.
All right, great, Ileana. And we've lost Adriana. She might be having logging difficulties. We'll check during the next commercial break and try and bring her back in. So we'll stick with Ileana for the time being. And Ileana, do you think that the way people look at work and the changes, the mindset they think about work, is it different for women than for men? And if so, how so?
I think so. In being a mom and a professional, even before I have children, I think it's different for us because we tend to multitask and we have a different view and in different level of confidence ourselves. So we tend to overthink everything. And by that is you're questioning your confidence whether you can do this thing or not. The typical example, you are applying to a job and you see the requirements, and if you feel that you don't meet 100% of requirements, then you step back and no. Later on in my life, and I'm teaching people, saying, coaching other women and other girls that if you don't, it's better if you don't comply with all 100% of the requirements, because then there won't be any space for learning. So I think it's important for us to have that opportunity. But again, to your question, there's a difference because, and we both, men and women, or a couple, uh, they're all facing the same challenge. We're all parenting, but women, you are the one that carries a baby. So that it's a big difference. And as soon as you show up to the office with a big tummy, then they treat you differently. And if you have medical conditions, I understand, but we're capable of doing everything. I work with my two pregnancies, I work till the last day. So was my last day was a Friday. I gave birth on Saturday. So we are capable of doing that. And we also have a lot of responsibilities that we like to assume that it's only ours. So it's the multitasking, whether it's a good thing or bad. That's how we are wired. So I think it's different because there's a lot of expectations that we can do, but there's a lot of overprotection of what we cannot do.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Excellent. Thank you for that. When you talk about women in the workplace, and what should women be doing to better support the economic development of other women? And do you have any stories to illustrate any success stories you might share with us?
I have so many. I mean, especially later on, since I became an independent consultant. But I think the most important thing is to support each other, and that's a very wide expression. But how can we support each other? Is it the same way that you would support your own sister? Yeah, the same way you would support your mom, your daughter, your aunt, your grandmother. So because it's family, it hurts you and you worry about them. So the same way you would listen to your daughter, listen to other women. And just recently, yesterday, I was so impressed, and this is where I think sometimes we lose faith in humanity. And I was needing some advice, and then I found a person that just came to my life in the weirdest way. But and I was just accepting that I was going to attend an event, and we were talking about each other. Oh, what you do, and oh, that's great. Well, just right now you tell me what you do. This is exactly what I was needing advice. So I would like to schedule a meeting with you to so that I can get your advice. He said, well, tell me the story, tell me what is it about. So I told the detail, and said, well, you need to do this, need to do this. And I said, wait, but this is not a consultation. I want to pay for your services. He said, well, I have time. If you have called me yesterday, probably not, but now I can do it, and I want to do it. and what you do, it's amazing, and I think you deserve to be helped the same way. So pay it forward, and that's with by women, we do that. We're not all the time thinking, okay, I need to charge for this, and we're conscious about everybody needs to monetize for their work, but you were there, you're available, you can do it. That to me is the genuine support, that you see an opportunity where you can add value, you can change a woman's life. Why don't you do it? Then it will be like part of a job, like a service. But if you have the opportunity, just do it. Listen, see how can you help.
Thank you, Ileana. Let's bring in Mac Bogart, who is the founder of Humanity at Work. And Mac, you've heard some of Ileana's thoughts here on how employee mindsets are changing. How does this relate to your perspective as the founder of Humanity at Work?
Well, first of all, nice to hear you. Ileana, Stephen has mentioned you many times before, and you look like what I saw in my head when he mentioned you, and that almost never happens. So that in and of itself is pretty cool. For most of the human story, we've been struggling in a world of scarcity. We had to grab and hold and fight for and stay away from animals that might take us down. And as my friend Melissa Hughes, she's a psychologist, says, one of the things that's faulty about the human brain is our brain is not good at differentiating between a hungry tiger and a critical spouse. So most of our thinking still is based in fear. And in that place, we make, I think, bad decisions when it comes to the workplace. And we're not having the kind of conversations we have to have, which is about value and what kind of world do we want to leave for our great grandchildren, and what's really important to us. And if you remember in The Wizard of Oz, everybody's seen that movie. There's the big wizard and he's doing all this stuff. And then they pull the curtain back and there's this little kind of jerky guy behind who's running everything. I think in the past 20 years, the curtain has been jerked back. And many of us are starting to see, yes, I have a nice house. Yes, I've always wanted to own a fancy car. And yes, I still feel like I'm not who I want to be, or I don't get to be who I want to be. And those frustrations, I think, corrode the quality of our life. And I think we need to talk more about the quality of our work, not just quantify it and measure it by the numbers. So that's what Humanity at Work is about.
Excellent. Thanks, Mac. One of our other guests is Carlos from Mexico City. And Carlos, are you seeing the same sorts of mindset changes in leaders or even in employees that Ileana has mentioned? Can we bring Carlos in? Maybe not. Okay, how about Annalisa? Can we bring Annalisa in? Because I'd like to ask her a perspective from the UK. And, Carlos is here. Okay, let's see if we can get Carlos on screen. Can we bring Carlos up? Hold on just a second, guys. There we go. Carlos, welcome. All right, welcome to the world of live TV where anything can happen.
That's right.
So, Carlos Bueso, are you seeing the same sorts of mindset changes in either leaders or employees that Ileana was describing earlier?
Yeah, and thank you. Great to be here, Stephen. Thanks for the invite. And absolutely, yes. I have a lot of visibility on what's happening in Latin America from a talent perspective and leadership perspective as part of Experis in Manpower Group. And we do see definitely a shift that happened with COVID that changed everything. And, on one hand, you had the tools and the technology that had to be used for the world to work, to function, but then also some mindset changes that leaders had to make along the way. And not everyone was prepared, right? Not everyone was prepared to work and manage people remotely, take care of people remotely. And so I think a lot of mindset changes happen in a way, I believe, for the better, because I believe managers now are better able to really be effective in the new normal, right? In the new work environment we're living in. And that includes the hybrid workforce, global workforce, more equality and more inclusiveness in the offices, in the work environment today. So yes, in short, yes, we do see those changes in Latin America as well, and agree with Ileana and Mac's comments.
Great, thank you. You know, I remember when COVID first started, I was coaching somebody, and we were talking about how he would need to change his managerial style, his leadership style. And he said, COVID's going to be 3 months. We'll be in, this hybrid working from home. 3 months later, we'll forget about all that. Well, 3 years later, we're still dealing with it in some parts of the world. Let me ask one more guess, and then we'll take a commercial break. So if we can bring Annalisa in. And there she is with her famous red hat, as always.
Hi, Stephen. It's lovely to be here.
You're based outside London, and most of your work is with European organizations. So are you seeing the same kind of mindset changes in that part of the world that Carlos and Ileana have been talking about here?
When it comes to leadership mindset, I think as a leadership coach, I see a side of senior leaders that most people don't. I think on the outside, there's a lot of, they talk about optimism. They talk about optimism to the press. But in private, they're struggling because there have been so many challenges. Certainly here in the UK, leaders have faced an onslaught of challenges, a barrage of them, from Brexit, and businesses are still coping with that, with the higher taxes, the higher tariffs, the red tape, the bureaucracy, the hold-ups at the ports, haulage, the imports of raw materials from abroad, holding up processes. So they're still reading from that. And then, of course, we've had the pandemic, the energy crisis. We've got high inflation here in the UK, higher than it's been for 30 years, and that's impacting on rates, office rates, and of course interest as well, high interest, and that is also affecting borrowing. So they're reeling, and I think as well they're struggling as well to cope with, as everybody has said here already, this new way of working. And they're starting to realize that, leadership isn't operating as it used to. There was a time, I remember when I started work, the senior leadership, they used to disappear into a room marked private. There are these mysterious people that kind of came and went, and occasionally you saw glimpses of them. And they can't operate like that anymore. They have to be seen, they have to be visible, they have to be more transparent. And there's a paradox here, because while technology is enabling their organization and improving their organization and giving their organization more control, it's also taking control away from them as well. Because if their staff, their employees aren't happy, they're empowered to try and do things on their own. Technology is a great enabler. It empowers us to try and make our mark on the world. And this is what I say to my friends. They're worried about job security. They're worried about AI. And I go back to what Rodrigo was saying in his recorded clip there. I applaud his optimism, what he said about making a career plan, what he said about learning about AI as well, and learning how to use it and utilize it. And that's the key. It's not to worry and stress about what it's going to take away from you. How can you use it to your own advantage? How can you use it to get ahead? And how can you use it to make your mark on the world and to leave a legacy?
Excellent. Thank you. That's having that growth mindset is going to make all the difference.
Absolutely.
For all of us, leaders, employees, and everyone. Excellent. Excellent. Well, Annalisa, you've kind of teed us up nicely for the next segment. We're going to take a short commercial break. And when we return, our conversation is going to have really an in-depth discussion more about how leadership is changing. So we'll be right back in a couple minutes.
You can navigate the legal and emotional journey of divorce and exit a marriage the way you entered it, with mindfulness, love, and respect. Solace Divorce Mediation is a full-service law practice helping couples focus on the health and well-being of children and their forever co-parenting family. Our streamlined divorce journey offers flat fees with an estimated completion timeframe of 2 to 4 months. If you or a friend need us, visit solacedivorce.com.
Oh, welcome back. And I don't know about you, but I love that commercial for Intention Pen. And my birthday's coming up in a couple months, so I know it's going to go on to my wish list. So without a doubt, the premise of my book, Humany Leadership, is that leaders have to change to be successful in the long term. And most of these changes are mindset changes, including, first, we lead human beings, not assets, not resources, staff, workers, or team members. Employees are human beings. They're not headcounts. And that's a huge mindset change. The second change is to understand that as leaders, we manage things, policies, procedures, processes, and projects, but we lead people, lead in all capital letters. We lead people. And again, that's a huge mindset change. It's no longer about getting the most out of people. That's an old definition of great leaders from the 1990s or early 2000s. A great leader is one who gets the most out of his people. No, it's about putting the most into your people and reaping the rewards of doing so. And then lastly, leaders are responsible for workplace well-being, and that includes reducing stress and drama. We heard about what Annalisa was talking about in Europe, particularly the stresses that people are going through with the economic situation there. Leaders are responsible for employee well-being, and that's more than just safety. I mean, employee well-being used to be about preventing deaths in the workplace and minimizing accidents. Well, no, it has to include emotional and mental well-being as well. So the reason that these mindset changes are so critical is the 1980s construct of managing people, the concept of managing people, is no longer relevant or applicable in today's world. No one wakes up in the morning and says, I can't wait to be managed by my boss. And certainly no one says at the beginning of the day, I can't wait to be micromanaged by my boss. So people don't want to be managed. They want to be led. They want to be motivated. They want to be empowered, trusted, given opportunities to grow their skill sets and improve their decision-making capabilities. They want and they need to be coached and mentored, empowered, unshackled from directives, and freed from being told how to accomplish their work. We need to trust them, delegate to them. So leaders need to excel at the coaching and people development aspects of leadership. Because leaders who manage people quite frankly, are the major cause of the great resignation and the quiet quitting trends that we see. And additionally, it's very, very hard to grow your business when one of your key priorities and major expenses is recruiting and onboarding of new employees to replace staff who've left. So this is in your best interest as a leader to make these mindset changes. It's in the best interest of your organization. Those are my thoughts. And those are the thoughts I shared in the Humany Leadership book. I invited Carlos Buesos, to join me to discuss how leadership is changing. Now, Carlos is the managing director of Experis for Mexico, Central America, and the Caribbean. Experis is the global leader in IT professional resourcing and managed services, and it helps organizations act across the full life cycle of technology adoption, and it's part of the Manpower group of our family of brands. Now, Carlos has a wealth of experience and knowledge in the IT industry, having previously been the Director of Global Alliances at Microsoft, the Director of Sales and Alliances for Rackspace Technology in Latin America, and Director of Partner Marketing in Latin America for Cisco Systems. Carlos, thank you for joining me today to discuss how leadership is changing.
My pleasure, Stephen. Happy to be here.
We're very pleased to have you, particularly since it's on a Saturday. But listen, you had a part of Manpower called Experis, which is focused on talent and IT. And you heard some of the comments earlier from our other panelists about the impact of IT, and you heard from Rodrigo in his video comments. How do you see leadership changing globally, particularly in Mexico and Latin America?
It's definitely, and continuing from the conversation we had earlier, it's definitely something that changed quite rapidly with COVID-19, given the adoption, the rapid adoption of technology that we had at that moment. And it forced leaders and managers to change their mindsets and how they manage people. And as you said, Stephen, I totally agree. Now managers needed to worry about safety, well-being, physical well-being, mental well-being of their employees. And that's something that in the past wasn't really present in many companies around the world. I believe Latin America is no exception from what we're seeing globally. There's a lot of uncertainty from macro levels to microeconomy to business disruption with the introduction of new technologies or new vendors, new products in the marketplace or services that constantly disrupt business. So leaders are definitely moving towards an area where agility becomes key. Being agile, being fast, the resiliency and the ability to learn fast and adapt to that change. I think AI, as Rodrigo mentioned earlier, is a great example. AI is really not that big of a difference than when we look back and we had PCs or when the internet came about and smartphones and cellular data, right? And Wi-Fi. And so all those changes tend to bring a lot of uncertainty and people worry what will happen. So the idea is, how do we really leverage, learn, and adapt to these new technologies in all industries, not only in IT, because one of the dynamics we see in the market is pretty much every industry being impacted by AI and by technology, by automation, by cloud computing. So all these things require managers in any industry to be tech savvy, to understand technology and understand how to use it as a competitive advantage in the market. An important thing that we are seeing also from the Manpower side is the importance of having leaders conscious about social responsibility as well. And as new generations come about, and we are employing a lot of Generation Z employees, especially in technology, a lot of young technology people coming out of colleges in 2, 3, 4 years into their career. And they expect different things, right? And they expect to work for companies that are socially responsible, that are inclusive, that companies that have a mission, something that they feel they're investing their time for something worthwhile. They're providing something back to a community, to people. So I think those are different areas where we see a lot of impact and changes, and definitely the soft skills in general are becoming as, if not more important, than the business and technology skills that in the past were the basic and number one requirements.
Yeah, Valerie, I think you just warmed Annalisa's heart because purpose is so critical to her. And we're going to come back to her in just a moment with that. But can you tell me, Carlos, what changes is Manpower making, or your clients maybe, to enhance employee engagement? Because we see so many studies that shows employee engagement is so low around the world. Share with our audience what either your organization is doing or maybe what your clients are doing to enhance employee engagement.
Absolutely. So both at Manpower and as I see with our customers, definitely there are several things that employees are expecting now. And in order to retain employees, it's important that companies and leaders make changes in the way that business is managed. Flexibility is one. And as we say, we live in a new normal. We probably will never go back to the way we used to work before, especially because technology is also advancing so much that it allows us to be more productive in a hybrid environment than we were before being so digital in the way we worked. I wonder sometimes, Stephen, how would have the world been if the pandemic hit 10 or 15 years ago? I sometimes think about that, and I cannot grace the size of the impact for businesses, given that the people in their homes didn't have the broadband they have today. They don't have the tools they have today to work remote. So it would have been a big impact. So having the technology also on your side and be able to provide that flexibility to employees, to provide the right tools, to have a clear policy on, again, inclusion, well-being, equality, making sure that we are working towards gender equality in the business, not only in the amount of men or women that are in the workforce or in the company, but the programs that are offered. So it's important that it's not only a PowerPoint message. It needs to be validated with actions, with policies, measuring it. And so those are some of the things that we are doing internally, but also helping out customers go through that process as well as they go into this new world, new normal.
Yeah, the new normal, what I call the new abnormal, quite frankly. I don't think there's anything normal about it. I think you're right. If COVID had hit 15 years ago, we might have had the Great Depression #2.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. It would have been really hard for businesses. Yeah,
I totally agree. You talk about flexibility. I'll share a quick story with everyone. My first job out of college was with a fairly conservative company in Texas. And I grew up in Las Vegas, so I'm not very conservative, particularly when I was in my early 20s. And I went to the ad agency one day, and on my way back, I stopped and got a haircut. And, this was like I'll date myself a little bit, but it was, let's call it the 1980s. And the person sitting next to me was the same age as me. And when I got back, he looked at me and said, "Stephen, did you get a haircut?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "On company time?" And I looked at him, I said, "Well, it grows on company time." But, the attitude back then was such that you couldn't take a dentist appointment. I mean, if you asked your boss to take time off on a Thursday to go see a dentist, your boss would probably look at you and say, "Doesn't your dentist work on Saturday? What's wrong?" Right. You need to find a new dentist. It's totally different. Right. Carlos, you touch upon a subject that's dear to my heart, and I also know Ileana's heart, and probably everyone's, and that's about women in the workplace and how things are changing. Is the glass ceiling, as what's known, is it changing for women leaders? Is it starting to crack, do you think? Why or why not?
Well, let me speak from a Latin America perspective. I think it's cracking, but not fast enough, and it hasn't broken yet, right? So it's still in early stages, and there's still way to go. When I look at the IT industry, which is the one I'm closest to, and I can provide probably more information and insights into that industry in particular. Globally, we see that women women participation is about 28% of the total IT workforce globally. In LATAM, it's less. LATAM, we're seeing anywhere from 15 to 18, 20%.
Okay.
So that's still a big way to go. Now, when we look at colleges and universities, the positive sign is that women enrollment in technology careers is increasing slightly, but it's increasing. And now we are seeing close to a third of the population on technology schools being women. So that gives us some hope that it's going in the right direction. But it's not only about education, it's also about, again, the policies and the way companies hire, the way companies promote employees, the way they train their employees to get them ready for that next promotion. So it's really a collaborative effort between institutions to make sure that we are also bringing more women into these careers, and also corporations to make sure that the right policy is in place to be equal in every sense of the word, in pay rates, in training opportunities, in promotion opportunities. So it's in the right direction, Stephen. Still a long way to go.
Well, at least we're going in the right direction. That's great.
Right.
Annalisa, I know corporate purpose is foundational to your approach to leadership, and you heard Carlos just talk about it. What thoughts do you have to supplement what Carlos just shared?
I would say to any leaders who think that purpose is, it's nice to have, but not critical. That if you want stability, and you're looking for stability in this highly charged, volatile climate that we're living in at the moment, then purpose will give you it. Purpose will help you to attract high-performing talent and retain that talent as well. And purpose will give you credibility. It will give you consumer trust, consumer loyalty, because we know now that consumers want to spend their money carefully. They're discerning as to where they want to spend their money. They're discerning as to the ethics of the companies that they actually spend their hard-earned cash with. And so they're doing their research. And that extends not just to the actual purpose itself, but also to the supply chain, to all the decisions that you make in the business. You need to ask, does the supply chain align with our values and our purpose? Does this campaign align with our values and our purpose? Do our policies, as Carlos says, align with our values and our purpose? These have to be used in decision making. But they will give you stability. And if you want to sleep with peace of mind, then don't look upon purpose as something that is secondary to your business, that you'll get around to attending to when you've done everything else. It really is a critical part of your strategy and should be built into your operations as well. And crucially, should be communicated as to everybody who works in your workplace. Tell them why you've chosen this particular mission, and make it align with your values. Or if you have a set of values already, but you don't actually have a purpose, use your values as a compass to help you to define that purpose, to point the way to it. And I think it's really important to let everybody in the organization, whatever their role is, tell them how their role feeds into that purpose, the part that it plays, and each department as well, so that they are part of the story, make them feel part of the story. Everybody wants today, there are so many problems in the world. Everybody wants to, we hear this word legacy a lot. And okay, everybody is a sweeping statement. But most people, particularly, we know Generation Z, the research is showing it now, that they will quit jobs that don't align with their values to go to other employers or to set up on their own. they really want to do something that's going to make an impact and a difference. So if they're working with somebody, even if that they're not 100% sold on their job, if they feel as though they're making a difference in the world, then they're going to stick with it. They're going to stay with you. They want to feel as though they're making a difference, and you should be making a difference. We should all be doing that. And actually, Mary Portis over here in the UK, she's a name that is very big in retail. She's been very outspoken about the high street and keeping the high street alive here in the UK. She's actually started a Better Business Act. She's getting lots of businesses involved in signing up to commit to being purpose-driven and mission-driven and to making a difference and to contributing their profits towards that as well, which is a great initiative.
Excellent. Excellent. As Carlos says, a long ways to go, but it sounds like moving in the right direction without a doubt. Ileana, you specialize in helping governments think more strategically about economic growth. And is there a link between the economic development of women and the GDP growth of nations?
Yes, there is, and it's a big relationship and direct effect. And I'm not an economist, but I have read and studied a lot of this with great economists. And there's the relationship is it's important in the sense that GDP. Really what measures is the size of an economy. It's the value of all products and services produced in a country. So I see it like a domino effect.
Mhm.
Women historically have been the ones that actually make the decision of what to do with the income, whether the breadwinner is the man or not, or the entire family. Historically, women are the ones that decide where to invest that money that comes, and where do they spend that money? In health, education, safety and security, and it's really everything for the welfare of their family. That means either shoes, clothes, and I mean, why not even makeup and cosmetics. So the economy is really important in the contribution of what women are. Now, historically also, men have been the breadwinner before, and the women is the one that stay at home, and that's what the decision is. Now things have changed. Now the breadwinner is a teamwork, it's a team effort, because now a lot of families, and especially in developing countries, the community, a family, it's still comprised of not just mom, dad, and the children, but you have the grandma, the grandma, the in-laws, and you have an entire family living with you. So all of them are breadwinners. So what comes into a household is going to be, it's that money produced from either the products or services where they work in, being in a company or on their own business. Now, when you have women as owners of their own business, this is now like a bigger effect, because then this woman is in charge of producing a specific item or a product or services. Then that's going to go, if the more they invest in that and the more they produce, then the higher the income in the household, and then more production into this company. So at the end, then you have the GDP, and that's what economists think about. But I think it's important to put this over, to give these opportunities to women, so that they can translate in bringing more income to their family, and having more women owning their business or managing and controlling their business. It's a big trigger. The United Nations with the SDGs, they put gender equality or that, and that's great. But this is not given, because women have to have equal seats, and that, yeah, that's beautiful, and I love it. But I've seen the impact of giving the opportunities to women that have their own business to succeed, to go where the opportunities are. We talked at the beginning about lack of confidence and even the opportunities. There was a study by the United Nations in an organization called We Connect International, where there's a bias of lending money to women, because they think that they're not going to pay on time because they work at home, they have kids and everything, and women are the ones that pay faster and more efficiently. The other thing is because they are very conservative of the amount. While men ask for these huge amounts, women think, okay, I'm going to ask for little, but I know I can pay that little.
Right.
So it's also that mindset that they can do just a little one, and we need to kind of push them, encourage them for those opportunities to think big and be more confident. And who can do that? Other women, other men, fathers, daughters, bosses, the whole community, the whole society have to do that. So it's, if you want to bring economic growth to a country, start with women. Put all the opportunities to women.
Yeah, thank you,
That's the
Leon.
secret.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you very much. To finish this segment, I want to ask Mac a question here. Mac, your recent book is titled Gender Crap. Can you share with the audience some key points from that book and how it relates to women in leadership?
I'll do my best, and thank you, Ileana, for doing my segue. This is the cover of the book, and as it says, it's about stories, and it's stories about expectations, especially when we're younger. And we're doing a series of conversations based on what comes up in the previous conversation. And our next conversation is called Breadwinner.
Okay.
Yeah. And it is about, I mean, I grew up in a household where my mom, I don't think my mom worked less hard or harder than my father, but she worked in the house and she did not produce income, though she produced great value. So this conversation about Breadwinner is about exploring people's stories, because that's what the book is. It's not statistics. It's just stories. And everybody who has taken part so far has been congruent in the sense that we need to change from the get-go when we're kids, what our expectations are, because those are very powerful, however false or true or good or bad or right or wrong they are. Whoa. Sorry, my house is falling apart, but that's okay. They have an extraordinary impact on us, and we don't realize until we run up against one of these walls that were built when we were little about what you're supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do, how you're supposed to act, who's supposed to be the breadwinner. And I know from my wife's experience, she works in medicine, and she will have customers who will bypass her to find the male doctor in the clinic. And it's crazy, and it infuriates her. And I get that as much as I can. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's like getting down to the level of people's stories, so we can say, this is what I learned, and this is what I found false. So then we can pass it on, maybe pass it on to our kids and the people that we work with, so we can start to crumble this dysfunctional thing called gender crap. Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully the next generation will do a much better job than we've done. You know, we could continue this segment for the remainder of the show. This is such a rich dialogue, but let's take a break. Let's hear from our sponsors. And when we return, let's talk about, can we bring humanity and harmony into the workplace? We'll be right back.
So here's a little story to help you remember how to get into the right mindset. A father comes home, he's had a terrible day, put out all the fires, he's exhausted. He comes in the house, puts his briefcase down, and his little 5-year-old son comes around him, Daddy, 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 and grabs him by the leg and hugs him because that's as high as he can go. And father looks down and says, hey, what's going on? What's happening? The little boy looks up and says, Dad, where does poo come from? And the father thinks, well, he's 5 years old, he's kind of intelligent, I'm going to have to answer this question sooner or later. So he says, son, as animals, we eat, you eat, the things you're going to eat can make you grow up bigger and stronger, build your bones. As human beings, what we eat, we use for energy. What we don't use for energy gets stored as fat. And what doesn't get stored as fat, we let go of. And if it's liquid waste, we call it urine. And if it's solid waste, we call it poo. He's looking at the son for a reaction. The little boy's looking at him like, huh? And he goes, Well, then where does Tigger and Eeyore come from? So you can't answer a 5-year-old's question with your business mindset, with your adult mindset. You've got to go home and turn into a 5-year-old mindset, all right? And it's the same thing in the workplace. So when people come to you and you think it's a really crazy story or a really crazy question they're asking, get into their mindset. And that's what I mean by listening.
Well, welcome back. I didn't realize our producer was run that little segment of my my little story about Winnie the Pooh, but I'm glad he did. As I was writing the Humany Leadership book, I constantly asked people to describe to me what harmony looked like in their workplaces. And in honesty, the most common responses that I got was amused smiles and gentle scoffing, as almost everyone said there was no such thing as harmony in their workplaces. And, that's sad because, there should be. Harmony in the workplace is like the state of flow that we've all experienced. When we lose track of time, we're so involved in a task or problem solving or being creative. And it really, to me, harmony in the workplace is the opposite of the blame and shame culture that we find in so many workplaces. Instead, it's really a community of spirit like atmosphere where each person is accepted for who they authentically are. Leaders focus on developing the unique skills and knowledge of each contributor. And it's a place where leaders understand, as I said earlier, that they are leading human beings, not head counts, not human assets. Harmony produces thriving, and with all the benefits that you can imagine arising from such an environment. So are these crazy, unrealistic thoughts? Well, I don't think so, and neither do my next two guests. First of all, let's bring up Annalisa Landa. She's the CEO of Make Your Mark Coaching and Training, and she's well known as the values differentiator for her values-based approach to achieving outstanding results. Now, she's joining us this afternoon, but for her this evening from Kingston upon Hull in East Yorkshire in England. So welcome, Annalisa.
Hi, Stephen. It's lovely to be here, as I said before. So thank you for inviting me to contribute to this really worthwhile conversation.
Oh, that's excellent. I'm glad you're enjoying. Well, we're going to get you involved here more so then. Mac Bogart is the founder, as I mentioned earlier, of Humanity at Work, and he's also the author of Learning Chaos, How Disorder Can Save Education. Mac is passionately devoted from learning. I know this from my own conversations with him, and he espouses an absolute faith in every person's capacity to explore, discover, learn, and develop. He also believes we need to generate a different working environment so we can stop crushing the emotional and spiritual well-being of humanity. Well, that's really would like to hear your thoughts on how we can accomplish this Mac. But going to start off with Annalisa. And we've talked a little bit about it before, and we've got about 20 minutes left in the program. So let's explore this humanity and harmony in the workplace. And Annalisa, why do you think employees care about corporate purpose? You talked about it from a customer standpoint. You talked about it from an organization standpoint. How about from the employee standpoint? Why do they care?
They care because, well, I touched on it before. They want to make a difference. And the younger generation, not just the younger generation, actually, even my generation, we want to do something which is not just about creating profit or achieving goals. We want to do something that is contributing to a bigger problem in society. And so purpose galvanizes us. It gives us energy. We know that if we lose our sense of purpose as individuals, what happens if we suddenly don't have direction, or we lose our sense of direction, or we lose our sense of self? We get depressed. We're lethargic. We get confused. We don't know what path to take. Suddenly we're walking in a fog. And the same is true in an organization. If people don't have purpose, then they're going to be apathetic. They're not going to be motivated to do their best. They're not going to be motivated to give that discretionary effort that I call the magic in the workplace. If people are motivated and they love what they're doing, or they love the company they're working for because they see that company is making a difference, is doing something positive, and they can hold their heads up high and proudly say, I work for this organization because this organization not only treats us fairly and values us, but it's doing great things. It's supporting this cause, and I'm a part of that. I'm part of that solution in working for this organization. Then it's going to motivate you, and it's going to drive creativity and innovation, and it's going to help with collaboration, because people are working towards a common cause. They're working for something that is bigger than themselves and the organization. So I think this is why it's important to the employee.
Excellent. Thanks, Lisa. Matt, I'm going to ask you the same thing. Why do you think employees care about purpose in the workplace, and how does that impact their humanity at work?
Thank you, Stephen. We've got the data now. I mean, I think all of us suspect or know intuitively that people have more capacity than they're given credit for. Mm-hmm. Our schools certainly teach children as if they don't have much to offer, so they have to be stuffed full of stuff. My stepson went to a Sudbury school, and Sudbury schools, the schools are run by the students. They pay the bills, they do all the administrative stuff, that they do the teaching, they do everything. So they practice leadership from the get-go. So back to your question, we have the data now. We have what's his name? The X and Y leaders, McGregor. We have Daniel Pink and Drive. We have emotional intelligence. We have Margaret Wheatley. Power in organizations is the capacity generated by relationships. We have the data now to back us up. And it's time that we looked at our schools and our workplaces and our relationships, even when we're shopping at the store, and understand that the other person, whoever that other person is, has a capacity that probably has never been opened up. It doesn't mean it's there. So we have to, I think, remove the barriers. We don't have to create a new environment. We have to destroy, we have to break down the barriers that prevent people from going, oh, I can? Yeah, I can. And I think everybody has that. So why aren't we tapping into it? Because it's so powerful.
It is. And we have that capacity for growth, that growth mindset, that ability to expand. That's why I said earlier, I think one of the mindset changes for leaders today is to think about what they can put into their people, not get out of their people. And I know a lot of leaders talk about, what happens if I train somebody and they leave? And I always respond, what happens if you don't train them and they stay? How are you going to grow your business? So absolutely. Annalisa, back to you. How can employers do a better job of communicating that corporate purpose to employees and prospective employees? I know a lot of people spend advertising campaigns and talk about what a great company they are, and they're aimed at either the government or the shareholders or the consumers, but how can they do a better job of communicating to their employees?
Yeah, as I say, really, it's about integrating it into the day-to-day.
Yeah.
It's about building it into the day-to-day of people's jobs and job descriptions. It's about helping people to see that what they do is part of that process, is part of that solution, is part of making a difference. Because unless you point it out, they might not actually realize it. So I think it's as like I say, aligning all those decisions, aligning all those policies, aligning campaigns, always asking the question, does this align? Teaching people when they're doing their jobs or working on projects, to always come from it with that approach. Is it aligning with our values? Is it aligning with our purpose? Is it honoring our customer as well? And so the communication, it should be inbuilt. It's not about just putting it on the wall that people are going to walk past it every day, and suddenly it just becomes part of the background. It's just part of the wallpaper, as it were. It needs to be brought to life. It needs to be executed on. It needs to be modeled, and of course the leadership as well need to be committed to doing that as well.
Yeah, I love that. And I totally agree with you in that perspective. The communication aspect is so critical. And it becomes part of your ethos, but you have to live it. You have to believe it, and often we talk about corporate cultures. And, I worked at Citibank for several years, and, Citibank has a very strong corporate culture. But what many leaders don't understand, that as leaders, we create the workplace climate within our department that we lead. I mean, I was a different leader than my chief financial officer or the head of HR or the head of IT, all working in the same part of Citibank over in Singapore many years ago. So we all lived and breathed the Citicorp culture, but each of us was a different leader, and therefore each of us created a different workplace climate for our team members, which is critical. Mac, your thoughts on that and about that, and also about, you're a communications expert. What can leaders do to do better job at communicating purpose to their employees?
I work a lot with the art of listening, which I'm not very good at, which is why it fascinates me so much, is because I'm a work in progress. And what I stumbled on a couple of years ago was, it's not the listening that counts, it's the demonstration of listening that counts. Because we don't know that someone's listened to us until they demonstrate it. So I think it's the same with this thing about passion and vision and value and all those kinds of things we talk about. Each one of us, especially those of us with more apparent power, like supervisors and such, have to demonstrate that in our conversations, and not just by the posters on the walls with the soaring eagles and the people and rowing the boats and all that kind of stuff. But we have to, it's just like, how do you show someone that you care about them? How do you demonstrate that? It's not the feeling, and I'm not saying feelings aren't important. That love is a wonderful thing, but if you don't demonstrate it, then it's like, throwing seeds for your garden out on the concrete. They're not going to grow. And Stephen, you and I were working for a while on a project called It's an Inside Job. Mm-hmm. And it's about the mirror, each of us, and going, how do I demonstrate to the people with whom I work that I care about them? Yeah. How do I demonstrate it in what I say, and how I behave, and how I listen, and how I respect their space? I mean, we have lots of ways to do it. And I think it's that demonstration that's the critical piece, which we don't understand because we didn't have any training in it. Nobody said, here's how you show leadership, by the way.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's what I do with the people I coach. I mean, so often I coach leaders, and they think that communicating as a leader is all about being a great orator, about making great presentations, about being the Barack Obamas or the Martin Luther Kings or the Winston Churchills of their organization. And I stop them in their tracks, and I say, the two most critical skills of communicating are listening and asking good questions. and then listening to the answers to those good questions. I'd like to bring in Carlos, if I could. Carlos, what are your thoughts on how we communicate corporate purpose to employees and prospective employees? And your firm's one of the largest recruiting companies in the world. So what are you telling your clients they should be doing?
Yes, I'm very much aligned to the discussion from Annalisa and Mac. I think there has to be clear purpose demonstrated, be part of your company mission, your company vision. It should be integrated into that first statement, but then it needs to follow up with actions. And we spoke earlier about this. It needs to be promoted with programs, with initiatives to make sure that there's an open, inclusive environment where employees feel that they are contributing to a larger issue rather than just corporate profits, let's say. So companies and leaders need to promote that. They need to allow and provide the space and the flexibility for individuals to also express it the way they want to express it within the corporate environment. So it needs to be also so it could be seen as providing them with the tools and the space for also different activities to be born within the organization and celebrate those. So I think it's an important part today for any company, any leader to have the ability to promote that. As you know, companies are adopting the ESG methodology of environmental and social and governance. And it's key that it's not only a policy and it's not only things that you say you're going to do, but that they're actually being measured. They actually are providing value to the community, to the country, to the employees. And that's the way that that needs to be done. So it has to be a very integral part of your day-to-day at work, not just on the printed sheets, but on the day-to-day activities. And as Annalisa said, that leaders need to be providing the example, right? So good leadership, not far from these initiatives, but being part of those initiatives is key as well.
Being part of it and recognizing the effort for the employees who are doing those things as well. It's
right,
great.
right.
I want to bring in Ileana. Ileana, I know at ExxonMobil, one of your key responsibilities was to increase local content, local purchasing by ExxonMobil within the various communities that they operate in around the world. So let's extend this beyond employees. So Ileana, should companies consider how to communicate their corporate purpose to people like freelancers and contract workers and other so-called temporary staff that sometimes become long-term contractors? Why or why not? What's your thoughts?
Oh, definitely. I'm a believer that we need to include everyone that is involved in the supply chain. And to me, there's no like specific or an exclusive stakeholders that are. Everyone is a stakeholder of a major operations, like an international company like ExxonMobil or any big company. I think these are the people that are usually being subcontracted by other companies. They're tier 2, tier 3, 4 that you don't see. And in terms of freelancers and everyone, this might become your next employees in life or the world or even the cities. It's just a small circle. You are one day looking at the ExxonMobil campus there, you see it every day, and chances are that eventually, whether like it or not, you end up here. So it's companies need to do a lot of work in covering all kinds of stakeholders, because those are the ones that are going to be either in favor of what you do or against you. And it's good to kind of include them and share the story of who you are and what you do and how you impact anyone. There's another aspect of including everyone. It's that this freelancers, or even people that just go to visit, the facilities, or they are the ones that one day want to be working there. And if you don't treat them and you don't show really who you are, whether you respect your own employees or suppliers or anyone, then that's shame on you. So it's about reputation. It's about showing who the company values and what they value, and even from the people that clean the facilities. You can hear that, yeah, this is a great company, but they're treated like crap. Sorry. That says a lot about the company and the people that work there. So I've seen a lot of people saying, well, yeah, this is great. They pay okay, but they just don't treat people like they should. And I'm not talking a specific company in general, because I've seen it, because I talk to those people that clean their houses. This is the future of work, the reality of work, having your dogs barking while you're talking. But anyway, that's what I think. It should be addressed to anyone, not just your key stakeholders and the people that work directly for you.
Yeah.
It's the tier 2, 3, 4, 5, saying whoever it's on the supply chain.
Yeah. And particularly in developing marketplaces, I mean, these contractors and temporary workers, they become your influence marketers to their families, their friends, their neighborhoods about your organization. So, when we think of influence marketing, we always think about social media and stuff, but in reality,
Exactly.
I was a contractor, a consultant to MasterCard in Asia for I think 12 years. And let me tell you, so I had nothing but good things to say about MasterCard. I never got a paycheck from them. I got a few consultancy checks, but I was a big advocate for them against their competitors and what they were doing. So it's really, really important. Thanks, Ileana. Annalisa, you have this interesting acronym called PEACE, PEACE, that you advocate. Can you tell our audience what PEACE acronym means, and how can leaders create peace and harmony in the workplace based on your acronym? Take it away.
Absolutely. Thank you, Stephen. So yes, probably isn't what you think it is, but peace and harmony starts at the top. It starts with your senior leadership team. You can't bring peace to the workplace if you don't have peace yourself. If you're constantly operating in a high state of stress, reacting and firefighting to everything that's going on around you, how can you appreciate peace? How can you bring harmony into the workplace? So I created peace as a framework to work with leaders on creating peace that would ensure the stability and the safety of the company, and that would minimize risk whilst delivering optimal results. So it's not about mindfulness. It's not about doing yoga. The P actually stands for preparedness. I don't say preparation, because preparation's a bit woolly. Preparation is kind of like an ongoing thing, and we'll kind of like just keep working on it. Preparedness means making sure that you are prepared for every eventuality. It means taking yourself away with your leadership team, getting around the boardroom table or the hotel boardroom table or meeting room table as if you were in a war room, and basically working through every risk that you could see being a threat to your business, and knowing how you're going to tackle it, brainstorming how you can minimize that risk, what you need, the resources, the finances you need to tackle it, so that you can sleep well at night, so that you know that your company is secure. Cybersecurity, data breaches, we know that they're still happening. Banks are getting fined. Meta has had huge fines. So this, I imagine, is something that will keep leaders awake at night. Will they be the next victim? So they need to get those things, those safeguards in place. And it's not just about cybersecurity, but it's about disasters, natural disasters, terrorist threats, everything. make sure you have a plan of action and that you're safeguarded against that. So that's the P. The E stands for ethics. Build ethics, make ethics central to your business, ethical behavior. Make sure that the leadership, your management, everybody knows that unethical behavior, suboptimal values won't be tolerated in the organization. You have to build on an ethical structure. The A stands for taking action. When you see something that doesn't look right, if you get a feeling about something, or you get a complaint about somebody, don't let it fester. Don't let it get worse. Take action as soon as you can. And it also stands for accountability. We know how important accountability is in leadership, owning up to mistakes, and putting things right as soon as possible. The C stands for clear communication, and the clear just doesn't refer to clarity, but it also refers to transparency and being open and honest. Of course, there will be times where leadership have to keep things under wraps, just to make sure that there's no panic among staff, there are no rumors. But try to be as transparent as possible. Don't be cloak and dagger about things, because actually that can fuel rumor and lead to a toxic workplace and a toxic culture. And finally, the E stands for, first of all, evaluation. Evaluate all of your decisions, the successes and the failures as well. They say that I can't remember the saying now, it's gone out of my head, but we don't learn from experience, we learn from evaluated experience. That was it. So yeah, we say we learn from experience, but actually it's the evaluation that's powerful. It's the evaluation that counts. It's taking ourselves away and saying, why did this work? Why did this not work? And maybe buddying up with another leader as well. Mentor each other, support each other, and so that you're not working alone. You shouldn't feel as though you're alone in leadership. If you're leading properly, you should be leading as a team and supporting one another. And finally, education. Education is a great weapon against ignorance, the ignorance that can cause conflicts in workplaces, the ignorance that causes a lot of issues and a lot of costs for companies as well in litigation and a lost reputation.
I think
that's peace.
You just warmed our producer's heart. I think he has the same ethos in his organization, having talked with him several times in recent months. That transparency, that clarity, communication, that, as you were talking about, evaluating what worked, what didn't work, without the blame and shame. That's all part of harmony to me. That if you do that, it's not only that people won't feel like they're working alone, but also they won't feel like they're working against everyone else on the team, which is, I think, the other thing. People feel they're isolated, but they also feel like it's me against the rest of the team, or the rest of the department, the rest of the division, and that doesn't lead to harmony at all. I'm going to go to Mac now. And, Mac, this is a question that's very dear to both of us, you and me, that what can leaders do to create more humanity in the workplace?
The first thing they can do is show theirs.
Do what?
Show their own.
Show their humanity. Excellent. Yeah.
Right. I grew up in a world where, back to the gender crap piece about what you don't show, especially men. You don't show that. We're here, all of us, on this starship or lifeboat, however you want to call it, and we're most dependent on love. And in my coaching work and my work with executives a couple of years ago, I don't know where this came from, but it worked great. I said, which is harder for you? Which makes you more uncomfortable, to give love or receive love? And guess which one they all said? To receive love. Every single one of them. So, and I don't mean this to be too touchy-feely, but it's true. We need to be able to receive love in the workplace. We need to be able to say, I really thank you for that. And to take that and go, wow, we need to relax. We need to drop the dime, is the expression. And then I know we don't have much time, but real quickly, we have demonstrated, the five of us, it seems to me, we have built a wonderful organization in these 2 hours, because we've been doing what we talk about doing, and that's what it comes down to, because people aren't stupid. They know when you say one thing and you do another, which one do you pay attention to? So that's the second thing that leaders need to do, is to be very consistent in what they say and what they do.
Thank you, Mac. Thank you very much for that. And you know what? I don't think we should necessarily be upset about being touchy-feely. I mean, we're humans. Touchy-feely is part of our humanity. I mean, I think that's one of the issues, one of the stigmas that we have. I mean, talking about humanity in the workplace and about human leaders. I mean, people think that, oh, they're a soft leader. They're not they're not going to produce results. And my experience is just the opposite. Those who show more humanity to their employees are going to get higher results and longer sustained results. So without a doubt. One quick question for Carlos, and we'll take a quick commercial break, and we'll come back and wrap up after that. And by the way, our producer's loving this dialogue, so he's actually giving us a little bit more time, so we're okay. But Carlos, you heard Annalisa's PEACE acronym. Do you think that's prevalent in Latin America, or are the Latin American economies at such a different stage of development that harmony and peace cannot be a priority for leaders at this time?
Great question. It might be difficult to consolidate all companies in LATAM, whether they are there or not. I think it's a great framework. I've seen it, not precisely, right, Annalisa, as you presented, but in the sense of anticipating, having the right ethical policies in place and actions, all those sort of things. So I do see many companies already moving there. I believe the global corporations normally, as part of their global reach worldwide, they normally bring, in some cases, some of these activities and requirements to the local offices. But at the end of the day, I believe, again, it's part of the workforce deciding where they want to work. And if they don't find a framework like peace in place, they might not stay long in that corporation, right? If you see unethical behavior, if you're hacked, right, you don't have the right cybersecurity policies in place, if you're not prepared for surprising events that could harm the business. So the workforce is connected globally. And again, this is part of why the technology has changed so much the workspace, but also the employees, is that they are connected and they know what's out there. So you're not restricted anymore to learning or knowing what's happening within your company or your neighbor's company, but you have a global view now. And so the workforce today demand that companies are more human, that they have the right programs in place, and that they demonstrate them completely. So I think it's getting there. Many companies are moving along. Others might still need to reach that stage. But I think eventually it will be more standardized as part of the global workforce.
Absolutely. And Carlos, you bring up a great point, is that employees and prospective employees have options. They have choices. Right. I mean, the phrase I often use is that the war for talent is over and talent is won. The employee has won. Exactly. They have options that they can move, and they're not afraid to move on. No one today is afraid of having a resume where they changed jobs after 14 months and then went to another job. Maybe they changed again after 12 months, because they can explain. So, you know what? Those companies didn't have the values that I
exactly
thought. And so
exactly,
prospective employers are looking. That's okay. I'll grab you. I'll take a chance on you. So we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, I'd like to get your thoughts from each of our panelists on some final closing thoughts. And our producer says he has a question for each of us. So let's see what happens when we come back. We'll see you soon.
On July 4th, 1962, I found myself in the lost and found of mankind. Just because something finds its way to the lost and found doesn't mean that it wants to be there. Just because something finds its way to the lost and found doesn't mean that the person who lost it doesn't care for that lost item.
You are writing moments that people will learn from, grow from, and heal through for thousands of years. Together, we are co-authoring a unique moment in time. That DNA, those fingerprints, they're going to be gone. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. But it is your story that they will tell for thousands of years, but only if you leave it. Things that do not serve you must go. The longer you wait, the more time you give them to trick you into serving them. 22 homes in foster care, everything I wore as a scar, as a shame, things that started like Velcro on my spirit. After just a few months, then years, then decades, I had believed myself into believing that they were indelible tattoos. Sometimes we have to be broken down to appreciate the view once we start getting up. I want you to leave this place and know that you have been changed. Why? How do I know it's true? Because each of you has just changed.
Wow, what a lively, rich, really robust conversation discussion this has been. And personally, I wish we had another hour to spend together, but of course, these topics are so important that we'd probably want another hour after that as well. And, we didn't have family commitments today. We could probably just keep talking for 2 or 3 hours more. So great discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being our guests. As we bring the program to a close, we've got about another 10 minutes or so. I'd like to thank each of you. And I'd like to get a final closing or summary comment from each of you about just final thoughts that you want to share with our audience about the future of work, the future of leadership, or anything else that's on your mind as a result of this conversation. So Ileana, I'm going to start with you. And what are your thoughts?
I have two ways of saying what it would be my wish and where do I see it coming. My wish is that I wish that more people in the corporate world put more emphasis on emotional intelligence than IQ, because a lot of things would improve, would be different. But people will show more the empathy, that humanity, that peace, really who you are. And that's what I have proven. That's what opens the door to other people. That's how you show trust, that's how you build and manage relationship, by being who you are. And then sometimes when you're in the corporate world, you're being asked or you're being molded to be a person that you're not. And just because you have to fit, and then that's my wish. Now, the way I see it is that it depends on the wishes of other people. We're here 5 people, and plus all the people that are listening. If we all think about that, then we're multiplying the wish of 5 people times. So the future will depend on how we want to act from now on, or from the moment your life changed. My life changed during COVID because of different events that happened, some good, some bad. But the COVID had a silver lining that made us change for a reason. So it will depend on how we act from those learnings. Thank you.
Thank you. And action is really what it's going to take to change things. It's just, these are not just theories. You need to put this into practice.
Exactly.
From Mexico City, Carlos Bueso, what are your final thoughts, sir?
Sure. So I think leaders and companies definitely need to make sure that they are adapting, right, to the new normal, to the new way of working, to the new way of treating employees and growing employees. I agree that humanizing the corporation and taking care of employees is key, and it's a very important part of the strategy for companies today, in all senses, right? But just become a human organization that takes care of employees and that they have a purpose for the society and for giving back to the world. Digitalization. Companies need to digitize, given the new normal of remote hybrid work, of having people work for you in different cities or countries, the way you automate internal processes to make more efficient, and how you incorporate new technologies and new trends that are happening now, like AI, RPAs, automation services, etc. So important to also focus on digitizing and creating a company that will thrive in the future and not lag behind your competition who might be ahead of you in some of these tools. And then have a clear social purpose, right? Have clarity on what you want to leave behind, your legacy for your community, for the world, for your employees, for yourself, your family. That needs to be built into the DNA of corporations and leaders today.
Thank you, Carlos. A pleasure meeting you today, and thank you for being our guest. And so hope to meet you in person one day.
Yes, my pleasure.
From the other side of the Atlantic Ocean, from the United Kingdom, Annalisa, what are your closing thoughts?
Well, unsurprisingly, given my moniker, I'm going to say that it all comes down to your values. So what people are saying to you are going to tell them about you, are going to tell people about your values, tell the world about your values. It's very easy for businesses and brands these days to find out what people are saying about them on social media. Mm-hmm. So take that seriously, attend to that, and see what the amount of conflict or harmony that you have in your organization as well will point to your values, will tell you if your values need attending to. And I would just say that you can take your values and convert them into a valued asset, because when you do that, it's going to positively set you apart from your competitors. And finally, I really just want to take this opportunity, since we're on global TV here, to call on leaders of nations and corporations and organizations to use your power and influence to be channels of healing, of compassion, and of reconciliation in the world. If you want to leave a legacy, don't think of the number of zeros, okay, that you're going to be leaving behind, but really think about the impact that you're going to make, the promise of hope and a prosperous future that you could contribute for generations to come.
Lovely, lovely. And that applies to leaders at all levels of organization: first line leaders, supervisors, team leaders, second line leaders. This is not just the C-suite at all, but definitely. And Mac from Maryland. Mac, what are your closing thoughts with us today?
Well, the first closing thought is thank you all. It's been such a pleasure. In March of 2020, I started a podcast, and it's pro bono. There's no money involved. It's called Back to Different. It's the number 2 because the preposition to was already taken. And 75 people have shown up from all over the world so far. And I am so excited about their willingness to consider that this time of great change and a lot of trauma may also be a time to renew us. And I'm so heartened by the young people with whom I work and whom I talk to. It's like, you got it, and it's going to be yours, and we want to leave it better. And Leonard Cohen, he's one of my favorite songwriters. One of my favorite quotes from him is, "There's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. And we got a big crack right now. And I hope that I'm sure that the 5 of us will be and are part of that light. And that's a very cool thing to get to be part of. That's all.
Thank you, Mac. Thank you very nice. And if you're not aware of, there's also the Japanese philosophy that when a bowl gets a crack in it, they fill it with gold to fix it and to make it more valuable, to improve it. So great philosophy. Thank you, everybody. I'd also like to thank our producer, Dr. Lauren Michaels Harris, and the entire production team at Trajectory TV. And Lauren, I believe you have a question for us that you'd like to share before we sign off. So it says, how important is it that as a business leader, we at some point daily remind ourselves of what our mission is to ease suffering within the world? How important is that? Scale 1 to 10. What do you guys think? I think we got a bunch of 10s here. I think, Lauren, you're absolutely right. But you know what? The key thing that Lauren asked us here is daily. And even myself, I mean, I write about this, I talk about it, I think about it all the time. I'm not sure that I do it on a daily basis. And so it's a good reminder. And as he put up there, daily grinding or daily grounding is very, very important. So good thought. Thank you, Lauren. I'd like to leave everyone, particularly our viewers, with this final thought. And it's something dear to my heart. And valued life, as Lauren has put up here, as it kind of summarizes this. But, to create a better world for our children and our grandchildren to inherit, we must become better leaders, better people, and better people leaders. And I hope our discussion today will propel our listeners, again, whether you're a leader, first-line leader, supervisor, team leader, if you're a parent, if you're an individual contributor, you lead your family. If you're doing leadership in your community, your parent-teacher association, your religious organization, your whatever you're supporting, you are a leader. Plus, you're going to be a leader yourself. So I hope this will propel you into becoming the leader and the human being that your organization, your family, and your community need. Thank you very, very much. Thank you, panelists. I hope we get a chance to do this again in the future. Thank you, I can't even say it, Trajectory TV and Dr. Lauren Michaels Harris. All the best. Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, great.